regular season mode now. When you sat down and you threw on that tape of San Francisco as you prepared your game plans, what was the one thing that maybe jumped out the most to you about them?
Well, what jumps out is the one who's not there, and that's Bosa, which we know is going to be back. So, I think Miko Ryans is putting his own kind of spin or flavor on this defense. There's a lot of similarities, yet I think there's things that he's wanting to be more aggressive with. We won't know that entirely till we get into the game against them, but I know we have to prepare for everything. It's an attacking style defense. And they've got certainly some pieces up front. They got a damn good middle linebacker and pretty good secondary. So that's just on the defensive front. Obviously, offensively, I think that there's very few that do a better job than Shanahan offensively, and he's got weapons. Starts with Kittle and the things they're able to do, mix up the run game, play pass. And a lot of eye candy to try to get your defense on its heels. I mean, this is a huge test for us. It's a good team, and it's a well-coached team.
Thanks, Dan.
Dave?
Hey, Dan, two things for you. First, just real quick, seen a couple positive COVID tests after the weekend off across the league. How'd you guys come out? Any worries there?
No worries. We came out fine. We came out good. So we're happy about that for sure.
Good. And then number two, you didn't mention Trey Lance and the quarterback situation over there. Obviously Trey had the finger end of the preseason, but the 49ers used him. They alternated quarterbacks on a couple drives and they used him, throughout some of the other preseason games. What's your expectation for how they go about using both those quarterbacks and what do you have to prepare your defense for if there's different things with both of those guys?
Yeah, I think you got to prepare for both. I mean, you have to assume that they may try to mix him in there and use him a little bit. So, we'll make sure that we've taken care of some of that. We've been working that style of offense a little bit in camp, just in general against our own offense. Our defense has seen it. But certainly you have to prepare for it. It's something that kid can do and does pretty well, and he's got good athletic ability, and so you have to at least present it to your players for sure.
John?
Hey, Dan, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yep. A couple weeks ago, you discussed Swift and some general concerns that you had because he hadn't practiced. Now, over the last week and what you're potentially expecting over the next few days, has he done enough to kind of ease your concerns about what you can do and how you can use him this Sunday, week one?
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest with you, John, it's I don't know if I'll ever be completely, feel completely great about everything because there's always work to be done, and you always feel like you can be better no matter how good you are. So certainly I feel like we're in a better place than we were a week ago when we talked, but now at least we can start honing in on the opponent and what they do and how we want to attack that opponent. And there's things in flux. We've got a couple of new receivers in the building and getting them up to speed, which both of them are smart players. But it's, how fast can we get them up to speed, ready to go? And then there again, just putting our pieces together and putting our playmakers in position to help us win. That's kind of the next piece to this. We'll do a little bit today. They've got just kind of an introduction to it, but then certainly Wednesday, they'll get the bulk of the game plan.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Chris?
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good.
First off, just wanted to say condolences on David Patton's death there. I know you guys were teammates for a little while. Didn't know if you had any thoughts about him or any memories of him that stuck out.
Yeah, that was tough. David was actually one of the first guys that, he was a veteran receiver when I got there. And I just remember, man, he really didn't have a bad day. He was always in good spirits. And always upbeat, always worked his tail off, gave everything he had, family man. And he was one of those guys that lived life to the fullest. And I got wind of it 2 days ago, and I couldn't believe it, but I appreciate that. He was a great teammate.
Sure. And then just back on your team, obviously you guys are playing a lot of young guys this year. It sounded like you were pretty happy with how things went in camp. I'm just sort of curious, like how much you think coaching staff can kind of close the gap if a team needs to close the gap on its opponents when it has a lot of young talent. Like how much ground can you guys make up just because of how well you coach and develop players? Like can a coaching staff have enough impact to, kind of accelerate the process for a team like that?
Well, let me start with this, Chris. I know this, if you don't have talent, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are. You're in this league, you'll get beat. So you got to have talent. And I do like the young talent here. And I think certainly, I do think you can close the gap. If you have guys that can teach them, just the fundamentals of it, the fundamentals of what you're trying to do scheme wise, what the offense or defense is doing to you. And you can learn and grow quickly, and I made that comment last week about, the important thing is that you don't make the same mistake twice. Because if you can do that and not lose confidence, I think you can grow quickly. I think a lot of guys can. And look, we won't entirely know right now, but I do think the young guys that we've kept and that we want to give a chance here and help us, I think they're cut the right way. I think these are guys that if some bad stuff happens, they're going to come back stronger for it. And they're not going to get down in the dumps. They're not going to, get beat down. They're not going to, let it affect them. And I think that in itself is huge. Because that's how you just keep coming back the next week. You come back better than you were the week before. And as a team, we get that way. So I do think coaching plays into that.
Thanks.
Yep.
Justin.
Hey, Dan, one of the, I don't know, maybe call it cliche questions that get asked at the scouting combine every year of the kids coming out is, what player do you model your game after, or who do you watch in the league? And one of the guys that's really gained a lot of steam in those answers is Deebo Samuel over the last couple of years. I mean, kids coming out just love Deebo's game. And so I'm curious, when you're watching the film on Deebo, what is it about his game you think that appeals to young receivers? And I guess what makes him maybe a kind of a unique or special player in this league?
Well, I remember when he was coming out, I loved the player too. I know we did when I was at New Orleans. But I think what makes him unique is his ability to carry the football, his run, not just run after catch, but his ability to these turbo, these fly sweeps. He can do some things out of the backfield as a runner and a route runner. And I just think there's a ton of versatility with him, because when you can use a guy like that as a shoot, man, call it, he's like a punt returner, but on your offense. You can get him in space, you can throw him bubbles, you can give him the fly sweeps, you can put him in the backfield, you can hand him the ball a little bit if you want to, but you can also let him run the routes. I think that it brings another dimension to your offense. And I think maybe I know for me, that's what makes it hard from a defensive perspective watching him. Is there's so many different things you can do to him. And when he gets on the perimeter and he's into it and he's got his speed built up, he's dangerous. And I think that's what it is. It's his versatility.
You mentioned those layers of the offense that he brings, and obviously they do that with the fullback position as well and the running game. And you've been around Kyle Shanahan in the division before. You know what he brings. How do you prepare for, I guess, all the wrinkles that he brings? How do you prepare a young roster for that, or do you just focus on the basic fundamentals and let that kind of take care of the wrinkles?
Well, I think there's a lot of it. You have to just give them a base rule on a number of these things. I mentioned eye candy. They're going to give you some eye candy. They'll do the fake sweeps, the fake jet sweep motion, trying to pull your eyes or make, see if you're undisciplined or your eyes going to follow him instead of following your run key or your whatever your description is in the pass. And I think they do that, and then they know how to cut the defense. You know, they can get you moving one way, and then they bring the fullback back. They bring 44 back, and they'll slice you on the backside of some of these runs. They'll shoot. They'll bring that turbo motion, get your eyes moving this way, and they'll toss the ball to the ball carrier, moving the same way with cash promotion. And then he puts his foot in the ground, brings it back, and here comes the fullback back, and he's cutting the defense. So your backers are running. Your secondary's running, and next thing you know, they've got an open lane. So I think they're as good as anybody with some of this downhill run, but then they'll stretch, and then they'll stretch and bring misdirection, whether it's with toss or some of the other things they do. And then on top of all that, they build their play action pass game, their run action pass game off of all the same stuff. So look, it's easy to say, if you can stop the run game, then it's going to make your life a lot easier. It'll make it a lot easier. And, but that's easier said than done. So, these guys on defense, our guys, they're going to have to be very disciplined with what their keys are and what we're asking them to do, because these guys will get on you. They will. And then if you let them get some explosive runs on you, we're going to be in trouble.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Guys, we have time for 3 more. Tim, go ahead.
Dan, for those guys out there that love to watch great tight end play, I'm sure you're one of those guys. Just the matchup with George and Hawk, and just how dynamic those two guys are, and how fun it'll be maybe to watch those guys square off, two of the best at their position in the NFC.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm hoping that our guy has a lot better game than his guy does. I know that. But yeah, look, I think I've had a lot of respect for Kittle just from afar watching him. I think he's one of the rare tight ends that can do everything and does it well. He does the dirty work. He's not afraid to block. He can do all that stuff on the perimeter, pass block, yet he's a dynamic receiver, and he's big, strong, physical. And our guy's pretty dang good too. And he can do a lot of the things that Kittle does, and I think that for us, he can, we got to find ways to get him the football and let him do what he does, because I know he can help us win.
Well, Joe?
Yeah, Dan, we've seen glimpses of your motivational tendencies, either verbally or physically, and I'm wondering, for a team that most people have picked not very high at all, and maybe your guys hear that or don't hear that or whatever, how do you handle that with them? How do you deal with that with a young team?
I think the focus has got to be, look, the motivation is one thing. It's got to be about just taking a swing one more time. Like, what is right in front of you? Just worry about what's right in front of you right now. Like, for instance, we got practice in 15 minutes. All you need to worry about is what this practice is. Worry about getting out to practice. Worry about the fact that we're going to have a walkthrough at 12:30. Then you're going to warm up 20 minutes later and do the best job you can at that warm up. And then we get into practice. And everything's got to be about what do you have to do what's right in front of you. What is the next rep that you have? If I'm on offense, we may have 60 plays, right? Well, we can't call 60 plays on one play. We can only call one at a time. So just focus on that call and what your job is per that look, and then take it to the next week. Who's the next opponent? That's the next one. Don't worry about what's beyond that. Yeah, we got Green Bay in 2 weeks after that. Don't worry about Green Bay. We got to worry about San Francisco. And I think if we can just stay focused and centered on what the job is at hand, right in front of us, and giving it our sole focus and energy, I think that'll go a long way for us.
So do you not play the prove people wrong card?
You're asking me, do I play the?
Yeah, it sounds like.
I think that's part of our DNA, no matter what. That is our DNA. I mean, I don't think it's any secret that nobody expects us to do much. And so, yeah, that's part of us, but that's just lip service. What the hell does that mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. We don't go out and do our job. If I don't do my job, it doesn't matter that you think that we're better than somebody else or we should be thought of as better than that. So, like, yeah, we know that, and that drives you a little bit. But, man, the focus has got to be on doing your freaking job. Every one of us, man, coaches, players, You got a job to do, and let's go do it, man. And you focus on that and give it your full attention, and don't worry about anything else. I think that's got to be what we're focused on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, last one.
Hey, Dan, Tim kind of stole my question a little bit, so I just want to repurpose it about the tight ends. Just as a former tight end, I want to know what you think of the way the position has evolved and some of the athletes that are there now. I don't know who was comparable back when you were playing, or how many of these things that you see guys do now that maybe you think in the back of your head you could do, but just sort of that dynamic of what the position has become.
Well, it's unbelievable how much it's changed, and because it really has become, in a sense, really bona fide big receivers. I mean, there again, I call it big skill. It's a big skill position is what it is. Sometimes more than an actual tight end. Like when I think of tight end, I think of somebody that still blocks the perimeter, like Gronk and Kittle and those guys, versus big skill. Big skill is a guy who he can do some of that, but really is a mismatch. He's a big basketball player that can run. And he can get open and create separation. And I know both players they're somewhat rare. I would say it's probably even rarer to find a guy who can create separation, and still block like a tackle. I think those guys are very rare. But it certainly has evolved. And as far as I could do none of those things. I mean, I was basically a tackle. So there is no comparison. The athletes now are, I tell you what, I feel like every year they get bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive. And that's kind of just the nature of where this league's gone, really.
So you weren't big skill when you were playing, huh?
No, I was slow slug is what I was.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.